Welcome back to Sincerely the Corrupt podcast. I'm going to be doing this by myself, and it's stupid. Welcome back to Sincerely the Corrupt podcast. This is going to be episode 6, and this episode is going to be all about justice for Tyler Smith. This is going to be the introduction to this case. This case has a lot of evidence, has a lot of angles. It's not going to be just this episode. Today, we're going to do a little bit of an introduction. And I think it's also important for me to kind of touch back a little bit because I know that everybody wants an update on episode 5, the Leclerc County assault. I know everybody wants an update on murder for Matthew Dane. And what I'm going to do is in the future, I will do dedicated updated episodes for those cases. And when I do that, I'm going to label those podcasts as updates. And it's going to be like, for instance, update on the Leclerc County assault case. The problem is we're kind of in that time frame now, right? Where it's kind of a bunch of maybe letters back and forth. Things are happening. We've got a lot going on over here. And a lot of that is done on the back end that you guys don't get to see. But I will be doing an updated one as soon as I have enough to report in an updated podcast. So watch out for that. Keep your eyes out for that. We'll do that on Matthew Dane and on the Leclerc County assault case. This case, Justice for Tyler Smith, I'd actually seen this case a while back. And I've been wanting to do it for a long time. And the reason is because it kind of touched on my heart a little bit. You know, when you see this case and see what happened, it's hard for it not to bring a little reaction. With that being said, I also know most of you have sent me so many cases, so many stories, and I want to look at them all, and I know that I'm not going to be able to, but I will be looking through those, and we're going to be heading out to Illinois for just a minute, and I know we'll be coming right back here to Missouri, because our state has got its own issues in itself, but this is an important case, and this is a really good case to look at and to see kind of what are our systematic problems, what are our systematic failures, why do things like this happen and nothing ever gets resolved, and part of it, I can even go back a little bit and talk about any system behaves this way, right? And what I've noticed is that when you're looking at systems, whether it's the justice system, whether it's the healthcare system, there is a sense of defensiveness against liability that is created within these systems. It's taught to their employees. It's taught to the front desk. It's taught to your advocates. It's taught that we are to protect the company from liability. And so that is how you even see the Justice Department work. You know, why are you questioning me? Why in the world would you want to read a document? Well, why in the world can't I? You know, why are we in this defensive mode to where we feel like there is no reason for transparency? So I want us to reflect back a little bit and think about these things, because I think this brings up a lot of issues that we really need to dig into. And when we think about this, you know, guys, I've never been the one. What's cool about this for me is that this has been an eye-opening process for me. You know, even just a year ago, I would have been one of those girls, and I still feel this way about some of them. But when you talk about like our Second Amendment auditors, right? I remember watching some of those videos and being like, that's provocative. Like, don't provoke them. Why are we provoking them, right? And it took me a minute to realize that there's always going to be radicalism in everything that we hear. There's going to be a level of radicalism that we don't agree with, that we don't like, that's kind of crazy and out there, but we've got to dig a little further because in the midst of it is common sense. And so there's actually a guy that I love to watch. He is the civil rights lawyer. Why I love this is because he uses a lot of dash cam videos, and he does a lot of civil rights cases. And he'll walk you through these videos and tell you the legal aspect of it and why these are, you know, breaking our constitutional rights and why these things have to kind of be brought out and we've got to be paying attention to these things. And what I've learned is that when you actually find somebody that you're like, okay, that's not provocative, that's actually very educational. It would be, honestly, I feel like it should be used as training in our departments, and everybody should be watching these. You know, when we're talking about teaching our kids on how dealing with police, we should be watching these. You know, we should not be provocative to police officers, guys. The biggest thing that I also understand is that, I worked in the emergency department. I've worked around law enforcement, and some of these things that you see, even on the civil rights lawyer, I have not seen in this area. I've not had them reported in this area. I've known a lot of the police in our area, and they're good police. But we have a problem in society when this much bad is affecting us from the judicial system, and it's affecting civilians at this point, because for the longest time, who would we hear from it from? We would hear from the criminals, because they were the ones that were initially, messing with the police. And so it's easier for us to say, can't trust them. But when we have so many instances of these sort of situations going down, we have a problem. What do I think contributes to it? I think a lot contributes to it. Look at the mental health in this country. When we see the mental health problem rise, that doesn't just affect civilians. That is rising within our police department. So we have civilians that have mental health issues, and we have professionals with mental health issues. A lot of that stems from our foods, our environments, our culture. We've developed jobs that are hard to do. And when we talk about police, that's why part of that, I've always been on the stance of don't provoke. Don't provoke. But even as of right now, I will take a legal stance if I have interaction with police. I think that is the only right thing to do at this point in our society, right? Why also is it that if you can think back in the day, Cop Show was big. I remember watching it. I loved watching it. Watching those heroes take down the bad guys. And if we reflect back on that ran for so many years. And that would highlight people in their most vulnerable moments, their most breaking moments, and we didn't care. We thought it was great. We thought it was fun. Those are the civilians, right? We thought it was perfectly okay. So now on the opposite spectrum, now we have them screaming, how dare they share dash cams? How dare they share these videos? How dare they be that transparent? That's weird. Let's not behave like that. Let's want transparency on both sides in equal amounts. This case is problematic for me in many, many ways. And so I'm going to do a little bit of an introduction on this case because I think we have to have the backstory, and we've got to understand what actually happened here. And this is actually a statement from Tyler Smith's mom. And what I love about this case is that even though, I take on a lot of cases, so I'm working the cases that I've already done currently. The cool thing about this case is, will I go hands-on if I need to? Absolutely. I don't think she needs me. I think this woman has done an excellent job defending her son, has done an excellent job seeking for justice for her son. She has went through every avenue. She's got a lot of resources behind her. She's been on the Nancy Grace show, guys. It was also on Dateline. And so, but nothing is still happening. That's what's confusing to me. Why is this happening when we have this much evidence? And so I want to quickly go over her last synopsis of this scenario. And keep in mind that this is going to be one of those cases where I have a lot of audio that I'm going to be sharing, audio of a police interaction with these parents that had just lost their kid. I want you to think about that for a second. And so when I talk about this case, understand these are grieving parents now that are now their son is dead. They're not getting much information. They're not getting a lot of good information from police or collaboration from police. And they have to fight for justice the same time they are grieving their child. Make it make sense. When you listen to this police, conversation, I was astonished by it. And I am one of those that I like to be unbiased. I like to think of both sides of the situation. And I've worked with police officers. I've worked in the emergency department. Working these systems drain you mentally. They drain you in every kind of way. And so a lot of the times when I watch these dash cam videos, even some of them are like, I don't know about that. Because it makes me wonder, what call did they just come off of, right? When you see that officer that's amped up at this, and you're like, why is he so amped up? What did he just do? Or there's some of them that get an ego trip. I believe in that. And so police officers should be watching these things. They should be watching these dash cams. They should be looking at these stories. They should be doing some self-reflection. How can they avoid these situations for them in the future? Because they are in those impulsive moments where they have to make those split decisions. And sometimes it's brutal decisions that they make. And there's a lot going on in our world right now with civil rights actions. And I do recommend you go watch our civil rights lawyer. So moving back to this, my name is Sandra, and my son is Tyler Smith. Now, this is Sandra, the mom, and you can find this on Facebook. She has a Justice for Tyler Smith case. She downloads all the evidence. She's very good at updating where this case is. And this is her statement on her situation. My name is Sandra, and my son Tyler Smith was found dead in Gainesville, Illinois on September 15th of 2018. He was last seen with friends out bar hopping and never came home. He was found in Cedar Fork Creek, which is a concrete canal that runs through the city of Gainesville, Illinois. They said drowned in 2 to 3 inches of water. I'm going to stop here for a second because I think it's important to note that this is like puddles of water. This is not a body of water. This is, an area, a concrete area that is like puddles of water. So in 2 to 3 inches of water. They treated his death like a full homicide, and then within less than 24 hours said there was no foul play and no injuries. He was home from California. He was in the Illinois Army National Guard and was in Galesburg staying with a drill comrade to do his last drill weekend before he transferred out to California. He was going to California because he had just landed a job with the San Jose Police Department. He had just graduated in May with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and a minor in homeland security from Western Illinois University. This was a boy. This was a man that was taking that oath to serve the civilians. And what happens after this is just astonishing. She goes on to say that our experience with Galesburg police has been terrible, effortless, and disrespectful. We did file a formal complaint, but they had their own investigate it. And before you say that doesn't happen, yes, it does. Go watch the civil rights lawyer. Find you a good one to watch. It happens all the time, actually. And so you know how helpful that was. It wasn't, was her statement. The original forensic pathologist said his cause of death is drowning with undetermined cause. An autopsy was done, but not a full one, just a palpable exam. That strikes me. I want to tell you why that strikes me. Because when I lost my child in a car accident, that I went to the scene, inevitable car accident, I'm an ER nurse, I did not need my son cut apart for them to tell me what happened to them that day. But I was strong-armed and demanded. It was policy. Autopsy had to be performed on my son that day that was in a visible car accident, that I already knew what happened. Everybody there knew what happened. Had to have a full autopsy done. I want to make that clear. But this guy only gets a palpable autopsy. That's strange. That's really strange. It's still an open investigation, basically a cold case now, sitting with the state police as we were finally able to get them to take the case in 2020. They have followed up on multiple leads, but unfortunately, due to the lack of initial investigation, they have not a lot to go on. What they are saying, the state police did take this up in an investigatory manner, but they said no initial investigation was actually completed, so they don't have real evidence to go on. Now, going back to the initial investigation, the Galesburg PD threw away his clothes, released all evidence in 4 days, and never printed anything. They did not do DNA. The lead detective did not go to his autopsy, as they should have. That is protocol. We only follow it when we want to. And even though they bagged his hands for evidence, none was taken. Tyler had gone missing for almost 19 hours. And then some passerby saw him in a concrete creek owned by the city. The Galesburg PD said he did not fall 20 to 17 feet, but no one knows how he got down there dead. I think it's important to note here as well that this is a locked gate area. So the area that Tyler Smith was found was a locked gated system. Like there's video evidence that I'm going to be showing you. I'm going to show it all to you. There's video evidence that shows they had to unlock that gate. They actually had to break it because their current key wasn't working. And so really the only way that he could have got down there was falling or to be placed. This area is owned by the city of Galesburg, Illinois. He looks like he was in a fight or even hit by a car. I feel like he was placed down there, as there are even drag marks on one of his shoes, which they threw away, but they took pictures of. There are marks from his hands that look like his hand was dragged through the mud. He has marks on his ankles that are consistent with a taser, stun gun, and marks on his wrist that look like handcuff marks, but they claim are marks from when they have bagged his hands for evidence at the death scene. I'm going to show you all of that too. Doesn't really make sense. I'm going to show you. There are pictures of these marks and these markings on Tyler Smith. He was out in the elements for almost 19 hours. I found an app on his phone, which was not damaged, by the way. Mind you, listen to this. She found the app on his phone, not them, not the police, not the investigatory party. She did. Found the app on his phone that said he stopped walking at 11:52 p.m. on Friday night on the 14th. So this is one of those heart-like apps that shows the activity of the individual. And it shows exactly when everything stopped for Tyler Smith that evening. Found by his mother. The police lied about multiple different videos being checked, and I found him on 2 of them, and the other one, which would be very crucial, the police lied about checking, said they checked, and they did not check. This is also on video because these parents were so very, very smart. Because even throughout their conversations with the police departments and the investigatory bodies, they were recording, they were documenting, they were videoing. They know their constitutional rights, as should every civilian in this nation. And they use them. And there is video evidence of them blatantly saying that this man, that Tyler, was not on the video surveillance supposedly at this bank. I'll dive into this. This is why this is going to be like major episodes in the future. But it's there, like right when they're sitting there. It's kind of a fun video to watch. I can't wait to show you that one. It was very crucial that they forgot about this video evidence, because it wasn't until later on down the road that it was found months after Tyler's death that they had lied about the video surveillance of Tyler Smith and what it had found. The hard drive was sent off to be scrubbed, but unfortunately nothing could be recovered. I did recover footage from a Casey store and was able to find Tyler walking past, and 2 minutes later, a police car goes down that road. 2 minutes later, Tyler stops moving. So what did she say right there? And I've watched all of this evidence. You guys know that I don't take on cases or do them unless I dig. So that's why this time lapses in between my videos. I'm going to try to get faster at it. But I'm looking at every bit of this evidence. So what they're saying is that she also went around. She pulled video surveillance evidence. They hired a private investigator looking at this evidence to see, where did Tyler go? Because if you can remember back, he was down there with some buddies. They had been bar hopping. He was probably drunk, inebriated, and they got lost. And so he was walking the streets, and at the same time that she's talking about this, there was text messages happening between him and his friends about how he could find his way back to the Airbnb. So what she says is she found, and I've seen it, you see Tyler walk by Casey's. 2 minutes later, you see a police car pull out, same direction of Tyler Smith. Then 2 minutes later, Tyler Smith's heart monitor, app monitor stops. So everything for Tyler Smith stopped at that point. The original people he was with that night have been no help to Tyler's investigation. I reached out just for info to build a timeline of what they did remember, because one said he was too drunk to remember, and I was told that they were least likely to be able to help us, as they had already given statements to police. After that, no more contact with the ones Tyler was out with that night. They left him in a place he had no idea where he was, and he had never been before. Why? Here's my issue with that, because a lot of us might tend to do this, right? When it's a hard situation, you see these parents fighting police, like, oh my gosh. And are you just going to say, I'm sorry, I wasn't a part of it, I can't help you, I'm going to back off? Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. She goes on to say that we started Justice for Tyler Smith December 2018, and I've been working on finding justice for my son since. We have Freedom of Information acted, everything we can think of. We finally got the Illinois State Police on board to take over investigation in 2020. Tyler's body was exhumed for a second autopsy since the first one was so horrible. Tyler's injuries went from 0 to 29 injuries, and another cause of death was found. He did not drown. Since he has been continuously working to find who did this to Tyler, or since then, we have been continuously working to find out who did this to Tyler. We have appeared on shows on TV on the ID channel called Still a Mystery. It's season 4, episode 4, if you guys want to go look at that. They've done several podcasts, including one with Nancy Grace and another one with Unsolved Mysteries a few years later. And she goes on to state that I'm going to start from the beginning of Tyler's death and share info that we collected along the way. And she's sharing this all again because we are still fighting to bring justice to my son, Tyler Smith, my only child. This was her only baby. Her only baby. Tyler was a good person. He was to start the San Jose Police Department on October 15, 2018, as he was one of 50 out of 5,000 applicants that got the job. He was a kind person, a hard worker, and deserves justice. Please help and share Tyler's story and like the page so that it spreads this story, and our goal is to find who killed our son and to bring awareness for others that are experiencing the same roadblocks as we are. This is just a small synopsis of what has transpired in 6.5 years. And there was so much more years of info. I am about to take you on some episodes down this case. And I encourage you to do this with an open mind. And you don't even need an open mind. You guys that have common sense and logic are going to see this and go, what in the world is going on? Why is this happening? I even try to unbiased look at this. Why it takes so long sometimes to report. I don't want to impulsively report and say, oh my gosh, how ridiculous. And then it's like, no, common sense then comes in a little while later. And then we have to logically depict a situation. I will honestly say this. I've spent a lot of thought on this. In the conversations that you're going to hear me share throughout this episode in this series, the conversations with this police department are appalling. Disrespectful, and they're not acceptable in any sort of way. And the fact that these officers have still to this day not had any accountability for their actions in this case, no action has been taken against our police departments in this case, I have an issue with. I truly do. Even if, let's say that this guy dealing with these grieving parents, they just lost their child. And when you listen to this, you are going to think how impressed you are going to be of these parents and the way that they professionally handle themselves throughout this situation. In every way, professional conversation. They're asking questions. And what happens is this police officer is now defensive, right? Because he knows somebody messed up. They all know. I don't care who you are. Galesburg, Illinois Police Department messed up this case in every sort of way, and every single one of them that have kept their mouth shut should be held accountable. And if I'm going to be unbiased and say, okay, maybe but right before that conversation with those parents, he had this crazy situation. I'm going to say, let's say that he was out in some woodsy area dealing with a meth head that was coming at him, and he's amped up and he's mad. And so he goes, sits down with these grieving parents, and this conversation comes out of that. I'm going to say, if I was a police officer like you who took an oath to serve our civilians, after going back and reflecting on that conversation, I would turn my resignation in same day, and I would never, ever step foot in the police department as a police officer again. If you are truly doing it to serve the public, resign. I cannot believe we have it. The outrage on this case is astonishing to me. And the fact that even though, and it's lack of evidence, right? It's lack of evidence. That's why you guys have to learn the Constitution. And when we have situations like this that go down, it is not just happening to criminals. It's not. It's happening to regular civilians. It's happening to people that deserve justice and people that deserve the right to humanity and fairness within our systems. We have to do something about this. It's got to get louder. Obviously, loud enough isn't working. That's why I tell you guys, I need the Matthew Dane case loud. Once again, let's share it out. Let's share these all out because we have got to start taking responsibility for the bad actions that are happening. And the problem is there's got to be some logical reasoning when making these decisions. There just does. When we look at situations like this, and when we go back to those Second Amendment auditors, like if you are going to dress up like a joker and go stand outside a bank and start recording, your cops are going to get called every day. I'm going to call the cops on you. I am. That's just going to happen. That's common logical sense. But those are the radicalists, right? You guys got to start paying attention. You guys got to start listening to these stories and digging in a little harder because we have got to have transparency within our systems, and it has got to start yesterday, because I don't want your kid wrapped up in it. I don't want my kid wrapped up in it. I don't want anybody's kid wrapped up in these types of situations. So next time, I'm going to take you on the first full episode that is going to go down the night of Tyler Smith, all the evidence we found that pertained to the night of Tyler Smith. And then after that, we will go on to what happens after the fact, which it's been years of torture for these poor parents that have lost their only child. Absolute torture, and it's inexcusable, and it should never happen. And we have got to start asking for transparency and accountability. So thank you for watching and coming back for Sincerely the Corrupt podcast. I'm going to be getting episode 7 out pretty soon after we release episode 6. I don't want you guys lingering on this story or waiting on it too long, so I'm going to do my very best. But do go looking at these other podcasts. Go check out her Facebook page, like her, share her, follow her. This is one heck of a mama. And it's one mama bear I wouldn't want to mess with. And it's the strength behind this woman has got to be impeccable. So go share her, go like that page, and share out the Tyler Smith story. And I will see you soon when I am back for episode 7.